left their belongings everywhere throughout the day, and I never heard of any incidents of violence or theft. You know, like it goes against the grain of everything we hear about, you know, working people and poor people just being like savage, but here's like a concrete example of us working together to try to, you know, make life better. So in 2 of the restrooms, this is really cool, there were big signs put up thanking the Capitol workers for keeping our house clean. And the Teamsters were buzzing people in. People were identifying with people in Egypt as their brothers and sisters, as well as, like, you could go to I left the building like 3 times, go to a coffee shop, go anywhere, and everyone was like, what's going on at the Capitol? What's going on inside? Let's talk about politics. Oh, you have that fist, what is that? Is that a social, like, you know, like people had heard of the socialism conference. It was really exciting. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but the only opposition I actually saw were about 12 teabaggers in a crowd of 100,000. So, you know, they were numerically very outnumbered. And I don't want to paint this as like a picture of we're up and away, but, you know, the experience there was unlike anything I've ever seen. And then we heard they were going to start clearing out the building, so they started more tightly restricting how many people could get in. And at the end of one of the nights, we were having an organizing meeting about how we could try to, this was on Sunday, they were going to try to clear the building out so Walker could release his budget on Tuesday in the building without there being thousands of people there, like behind him with signs and stuff. We organized, the ISO organized a meeting inside the building. And throughout the night, more people kept coming and joining in. And at first, the tone was very much, we're going to have to give up the building or get arrested. But we were actually able to shift that into a direction of, no, we need to try to build this thing as large as possible tomorrow and see if we can hold the Capitol building. Because, you know, the symbolic importance of it, as well as having like a 24-hour organizing spot, like in the day you have more like protests, and then at night people break up into meetings. Anyway, trying to learn how to, like, you know, democratically run things. The next day, the cops started regulating a 2-out, 1-in policy to try to thin our numbers, but it was actually a cop that informed us of what they were doing. So we, you know, just made sure people weren't going out as much. So on Sunday, we started hearing that the Democrats and some union leaders had agreed to give up the Capitol building. And they were, some of people may have seen Democratic Representative Hulsey, who, you know, at every turn he tries to present himself as a friend of the working class. He got down into the center of the rotunda and was urging people to walk out with him, to give up the Capitol building with him. And some people cheered him. I booed him very loudly. But the ISO and this other group called MECHA, it's a really radical group. Our members went down into the center and were urging people to try to hold the building. So at like 3 o'clock, they start playing these announcements over the loudspeakers to get out of the building. Some people are trying to leave, and other people were like going up. We had lines of people going up to confront the cops to try to get them to open the doors to let the thousands of people that were inside the building. Also outside, there was a similar dynamic going on between Democrats and conservative union members, and then the more radical elements of the crowd. Some of them were the slogan was, we are leaving, not retreating. So we would counter with, whose house? Our house. And then, you know, within labor meetings, ISO members have also been trying to push what's happening there, union members, into a more radical direction. I'm going to have to skip through a bunch of this, but, you know, needless to say, on March 1st, Walker released his budget, which strips like Medicaid, and it's called Badger Care, transit, all sorts of like really deplorable things. They're really deep cuts that he's trying to make. People slept outside the night before in the freezing cold because the building was on virtual lockdown despite its illegality and the court injunction to actually keep the building open. There were about 50 people that were still occupying the building at that time. Two iron workers from Michigan on that day led hundreds of people to the Capitol building, where they were almost able to push past police lines but didn't quite have the forces to do so. And there was a rally of thousands of people despite not having been protest. Last week, thousands of farmers were driving their tractors to the state capitol to demonstrate in solidarity with the workers there. And on March 8th, when the Republican Senate, without the Democrats, passed their bill stripping union rights, 5,000 people were able to force their way back into the Capitol, and they reoccupied it. A comrade that lives there named Michael, he said, I'll paraphrase, the last is, we are moving more freely now than at certain times during the late stages of the occupation. It's our house, and we come and go as we damn well please. So many union rank and file as well as union leaders have begun calling for and preparing for a strike. And this is in states outside of Wisconsin as well. And like I forgot his name, he's head of one of the fire unions who's actually been played a really big role in these occupations. He's endorsed the call for a general strike, but nothing concrete has really materialized out of that. So I think that the sort of broad austerity measures and attacks on the working class signify the measures the ruling class are going to take on the working class in this country, like what Wisconsin is trying to do. But the fight back in Wisconsin also signifies how we should start thinking about fighting back. These austerity measures, as we've seen in Wisconsin, have the power to unite many different sectors of the working class and actually break, there was one banner in the Capitol, it was, we need to create a U.S. for all of us, no room for racism. And then right next to it was a banner that said, this is our house. It was like black people, Latinos, white people, all occupying the building together. If we're to be successful, this battle must intensify because, Walker is showing that he's not really willing to make concessions. So I'm going to say something that might be unpopular, maybe with a few people in the room. At every step of the way, the Democrats have tried to surreptitiously undermine the working class. Sorry, it's a private joke. So here's one thing, that there was a Republican senator that tried to sneak into the Capitol building one night, and he was being chased out of the building by hundreds of protesters saying, shame, shame, shame. And so Democratic Senator Hulsey got down into the center of the rotunda and told the crowd that he and Gotham disagree on everything, but they're friends, and the protesters needed to back away. And I think that we also have to look at when the Democrats are in power, it's not like they're the friends of the working class. They may just try to a little more underhandedly screw over the working class, but we can't look to them to be our friends. But this is opening up a new space on the left, but we do badly need leaders for this movement, and we need to build organizations and networks that can sustain and win the fight against austerity. And we also need socialists within these movements that can maintain and fight for reforms while simultaneously fighting and arguing for a world based on a different vision than the one that we currently live in. Mm-hmm. We need a world based on workers' power and workers' control. We don't need a world where the few control the world in the interest of the many while we make everything for them. So, if you're interested in joining us in this battle, then I'm going to pitch it to you. Please talk to us about joining the ISO. I'm just going to end with this, that Ahmed Shawki, who's an ISO member, and he's author of the book Black Liberation and Socialism, he was in Tahrir Square in Cairo during the Egyptian Revolution, and he said that the square would have been lost without the revolutionary groups and the collaboration between groups. And I can just say that after the occupation of the Madison Capitol building, I can understand at a much deeper level what he meant by that statement. So join us.